this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This may not be the best quality video and it may not all be in shot and the sound may come and go because I'll be turning my head and I'm a fair way from the camera. Camera's been set back to try and get as much in as possible. The idea is to have a go at packing up what is in fact group number 1, which is quite an assortment of plants. So I'm going to start with an easy one. Okay, nice small pot and a nice upright plant, doesn't get any easier than that. And what I've done is I've cut off a selection of lengths of sellotape and stuck them down on the edge of the table, which is probably off shot, which means I don't have to keep stopping and going back to the roll of sellotape, spending 10 minutes trying to find the end and get it to peel back. So I've pre-selected a load of sellotape. I've got a roll of soft kitchen towel. The idea is to try and get this in a position on the top of the pot to stop the media falling out. That's all it's for. So try and cover as much of the media as possible and get it level with the top of the pot. I'm going to need a little bit more just to bring it up to the level of the top of the pot. And when you're trying to pack a plant, that is actually quite important, because if there's any gaps or movement capable of happening, Postman Pat will chuck your box around and emphasise that movement, and half the media falls out. So that's nice and tight on the top of the media now. Now that's just a matter of sticking that on in such a way that it just can't come off. So I'm just thinking ahead here of the poor individual who's actually got to get the sellotape off. It's not my favourite chore, trying to peel sellotape off, but without that, oh, that's a big long piece, don't want to use that, shorter piece. Okay, so each piece of sellotape is stuck to each other and down the edge of the pot. Yeah? There's no movement there now, it's nice and tight. So that's the media sorted out. I don't think any's going to escape out of there. And then the next thing is to individually pack the plant. And this is the best use for this bit of newspaper I can possibly imagine, because I've just got a load of random newspaper from, I think it was from my daughter. I don't buy newspapers, so I don't have any, so I have to scrounge old newspapers off of other people. And this is a newspaper all about football. And that is my least favourite subject. I really do not like football. I just don't have anything to do with it. But I'm quite happy to screw up the newspaper about it. Trying to tuck everything in nicely. This only needs to be a roll. It doesn't need to have anything other than that in it, because I'll make sure it sits in a place in the box where it's all going to be okay. And that's just to stop individual leaves getting broken. And all I need to do is just secure that roll of newspaper. Now I will, when I pack this in the box, I will actually tuck the newspaper around the bottom and seal it. But I don't want to do that yet, because all of these plants have just been watered. I don't know how long they're going to be in transit, so I don't want them bone dry. But at the moment I just want to let some air still get round the pot. Yeah. So all I will do with that is tuck it round like that and put another piece of sellotape over it. But as I said, I don't want to do it yet. I want to give these chance to just air off a little bit. So that's one done. That was an easy one. Let's do another easy one. I've got to warm up to this. So I haven't actually packed orchids for a very long time. Now this one's quite close to the top of the pot, but it's got a new growth with some quite delicate roots, so I'm going to have to tuck very carefully in under there. And also it's got some very, very fragile new growths around the other side of the plant. So this one can't just whack the old tissue on the top without looking at what I'm doing a bit more carefully. Obviously the new growths will be protected once it's rolled up in its newspaper, but I've still got to try and stop all the media falling out. So that's that bit there. using smaller pieces this time, because as I say, I've got little fragile new growths in one place and roots in another place. As I say, I can't guarantee a perfect arrival. I'm not in the trade, you know, this is not something I do naturally. In the past, I would say I just wouldn't do it at all, because the plants would be coming in, not going out. So this is unusual for me to be packing plants to go. Doesn't happen often. Did a few boxfuls last year, but not that many really. Right, so I need to get a piece of sellotape across there, just missing the new growths, but holding that piece of tissue in place. And then we'll do the same across there, tucking underneath the roots. I'm running out of long pieces, I might have to cut some more sellotape. I'll just do it in several pieces, using up the shorter pieces. As long as it's stuck to the top of the pot, the rim of the pot, and each piece of sellotape in theory should be touching the previous piece, it forms a ring of sellotape, which shouldn't come undone. That's my theory, what I have. Okay, that's that one done. The test is always just turn the pot upside down. And if it's only just been repotted, the whole lot will come out. Right, that's that one done. Roll it up, piece of newspaper. Might have to trim this one. As I say, I've got to try and get these in a box, filling the box up. I'll try and use very strong boxes so that postman Pat don't squash them. But the idea is that I will maximise the space in the box so that the plants hold each other together nice and tight. That way they shouldn't waggle around, and should arrive in reasonable condition. Obviously this is one of the groups, all these plants are going to go in the same box, which I won't do until just before I'm going to take them to the post office. So I'll keep them open, give as much air around them as possible until the last minute, and then they can go in their box, wander around to the old post office. I'm just going to cut this piece of sellotape into a couple of pieces because I'm only sticking newspaper together now. I don't need great big long pieces. So again, just nick those on, hold the roll in place, that tucks all the leaves inside. And the newspaper is, quite honestly, quite strong, but it certainly will be a lot stronger once it's laid in the pot, probably with some bubble wrap between each one. Okay, I'll just stop for a minute. I need to chop some more sellotape up. Okay, so multiple problems trying to package this one. One, it's in bloom. Oh, that's gorgeous. And two, it's leaning out sideways. And three, the leaves are quite big. Yeah? Four, it's got a lot of loose media. So the chances of all this media staying in the pot are slim. Quite honestly, slim. So again, as long as it sticks out above the top of the pot, the sellotape should press down and hold it in place. Problems I've got with this one, it does have a new growth, which if it bends will break. So I've got to be careful with that. In addition to that, there are eyes on this plant that look like they may grow. Certainly this one here, you won't be able to see it from that distance, and possibly one back here. Well, I don't want to push them off, squashing the tissue down. So this one does have its problems. But I've got to try and cover up as much of the media as possible, get some sellotape over the top, hold it all in place where I can, and keep as much of it in the pot as I possibly can. Obviously every gap that I can see in this case is potential for media to fall out of the pot. So I'm just trying to make sure by the time I've finished I don't want to be able to see any media at all. And if I've achieved that, in theory, none's going to fall out. Right, let's see if we can get that to stay put. Just going around the edges first, make sure I secure the tissue around the edge, and then I'll try and put some crisscross pieces into more central places and hold those bits in place. Don't you stick. Just going to bring that one across the middle bit there. And the same over here. And your sellotape's getting stuck to the table and don't want to let go now. It's not bad. I just bring one more long piece through there and over the edge. That should strap the whole of the middle section in. Dare I turn this upside down? Yep. Shouldn't have done that. If that had all fallen out, boy would there have been some language. Now this one is going to be quite hard. I'm going to use a double layer of newspaper and the chances are the leaves will stick out the top. This plant determines the size of the box because of the spike. Now I'm going to do my best to maintain that spike. So all leaves pointing upwards along with the spike, and I may have to put an additional wrap around this stuck to this one because this is there's too much sticking out the top of the roll of newspaper at the moment, so I will have to do some work. I'm squashing the spike here. It might be easier to wrap the newspaper around the pot this time rather than roll it. Got it basically held, but as you can see there's an awful lot of plant still sticking out the top. If I leave it like that loose, when I put the other pots in here it's going to get damaged, and what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find some, if I can, some thin cardboard and make a roll of cardboard rather than newspaper and see if I can just hold that in a tunnel that shouldn't get squashed. So I'll be back. Okay, I couldn't find any cardboard, but what I've managed to find is some very thick brown paper that when rolled up should actually be quite strong. That's the best I can do. As I said, the idea is that when these get packed into the box, they all get secured again in the box, if you see what I mean. So this is more a protection thing. But this is very stiff brown paper, so it should provide all the protection that this end of the plant actually needs and stop it getting squashed. Unless I squash it getting in the box, of course, which I will try not to do. You get an awful lot of traders, they'll show you a lovely picture of a plant in bloom, and then when they post it they cut the bloom spike off because they can't be bothered to pack it with the bloom spike, and it is difficult. you know, and it is fraught with problems. Bloom spikes can get damaged, and if you bought a plant with a spike on it and it gets damaged in postage, you don't feel very good about it, if you see what I mean. So rather than get annoyed customers, what a lot of traders do is they just won't post it with a spike on. You just cut them off. Because after all, they don't care at that point, they've sold it. They've done their bit, getting it to bloom and getting it to point of sale. Right, okay, so that's quite secure now. And when it's in its box, it shouldn't move. And what I think I'll do is I'll come back. I've got other things to do, but I'll come back and show putting it in the box. So again, I'll be back. Right, this got complicated. When I started looking at prices for posting, there's quite severe restrictions on using the Royal Mail signed and tracked service on both size and weight. So to stay under the size, the radiator is going to have to be squashed. I did say I'd try and maintain the flower spikes, but to get that radiator in stretched out full goes over the size of the box I'm allowed to do. The size of the box I'm allowed to do has to have all three dimensions added together must not exceed 90 centimetres, which is difficult to do and try and get 5 plants in the box. Well, this box is 30, say 45 long by say 20, so that's 65 by say 20 again. So 85, it's well under the 90 maximum. Unfortunately, I'm a bloke. Blokes don't have scales. I don't do any form of cooking that needs to weigh something that accurate. I use imperial pinches and sprinkles and stuff like that. So I haven't got scales. I've gone next door and asked if I could borrow some scales, which they've kindly lent me, which I've now got to work out how to use. I suppose the first thing is to turn it on. Right, we have numbers. Right, and I put all the plants in the box. Obviously there'll be some packing to go in, but that will weigh next to nothing. It's the plants that are going to whack the weight up. And this has got to be under 2 kilograms, and it says it's 1.7. So it's under the weight, that's fine. Bearing in mind I watered some of these plants. Duh. Well, I didn't want to send them bone dry, but there's obviously I'll need to take care with the other boxes with the watering, especially on some of the larger pots. So we're under the weight, we're under the size, but as a consequence the radiator will have to be bent in there. I haven't got choices. I could choose to send it bare rooted, but that doesn't make it any shorter, does it? So I'm limited, as I said, and now I've got to try and get all 3 of these, or all 5 of these, sorry, in the one pot. Yeah, one box. Oh, more coffee, nurse. So that's the little ones. I'm trying to look at the best way to do this. The spike on this has a natural arch in it, so I'm just going to push it in and bend it round. If it makes it, great. If it doesn't, well, there's not a lot else I can do. So if I get the base of the pot as far up the back of the box as I possibly can, and then tuck this round like that, along with its leaves, and tuck it in, and that's about as good as it's going to get. It should come out intact. I mean, I've seen spikes bent up worse than that have come out okay. I now have a limited amount of space in my box. That's good, because it means the pots should go in nice and tight without squashing each other too much. So that's the next largest one. Obviously there's going to be some squashing, trying to get 5 plants in here. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do it, because I've got 2 quite large pots here. I put them at opposite ends. Right. That's 3 in there. I've got one little tiny one which should tuck down next to the radiator. Just about gone in there. And then I've got one long, quite thin one which can just, quite honestly, that can just lie on the top. That's not bad. Will the lid shut? Yes. Quite honestly, when you're packing a box, it's shutting the lid that's the important bit, because that's the bit where the pressure is applied to all the component parts and stops them moving, because they press against each other and against the lid. The lid needs to be secure. So the pots are tight up against each other. There won't be any movement there, of that I am confident. Now I'm just going to lay that piece on the top of those leaves so that I'm not squashing them as such. A little bit more in the middle there. Just because there is a gap, that's all. There we go. Right, now the test is, will the lid shut and does it touch? Because it has to touch everywhere, and then when it's all taped up, I can't actually tape it up at the moment because I still haven't done the letter to go inside. Now you can see everything is now held tight, and then when I do that and tape it, nothing inside there is going to get moved, and providing Postman Pat don't sit on the box, it's going to stay there. So that's one done. Okay, that's just a matter of taping up the edges now, getting an address label on it. It's within the size maximum, both overall, and you're not allowed one side longer than 60 centimetres, with the longest one on here we measured. So that's okay, and it's under the maximum weight. So I know that Postman Pat will accept that and get it on its way. So there you go, packing up orchids. I'm a little upset that I've had to bend that spike round, but hopefully it's not going to snap. It's just going to be a bit bent. So when it comes out of the pot, the blooms will still be there. They may have a little bend in their spike, but it shouldn't break. It's not going to move inside that box, so all it's got to do is get there. So that's one done. As I said, if I had unlimited box sizes and things like that, you know, I could have done that differently, but I am limited. And this is about as big a box as I can send. I can't go much bigger than that. So all of the groups have got to get in a box like that somehow, and I'm hoping I've got enough boxes that sort of size. But I know that at least one other box is going to need to be at least that long to get the other radiator in. So all good fun. And well, as I say, I'll get the letter done, get that one taped up, that's one ready to go. 4 others to do. Don't think I'm going to get them all done today somehow. See you next time. Oh, I forgot to say, this one will be wending its way to Bulgaria. Yeah? So, group number 1 off to Bulgaria. Good stuff.